Good morning, Malta and Gozo, and welcome to another episode of Lovin Daily. My name is John Paul. Today I'm joined by Jonathan Chia, and these are your 5 headlines for today. UK has placed Malta on its high risk list due to the FATF grey listing. A couple of Colombian party-goers claim that an off-duty police officer attacked them at a SLIEMA LIDO party earlier this week. This Saturday, a lockdown protest is happening in Valletta. A vaccinated British man has been forced to miss his sister's funeral due to delays in obtaining his Maltese ID card. And the PL deputy leader has shared an anecdotal story of his kindness from an African cab driver. Make sure to stick around to the end of the episode where we'll have a special interview with Maltese pop sensation Maxine Pace, who just launched her show-stopping EP, Skin Deep.
Now, if you thought you'd heard the last of the recent grey listing by the Financial Action Task Force in Malta, think again. We are starting to see the consequences to this massive change. Just yesterday, the United Kingdom placed Malta on their personal national high-risk list. Now, what this means is that Malta has been deemed to not be fighting financial crimes, not be taking money laundering very seriously, and Malta has now been placed on the list, and we're joining a set of very nice countries, including countries such as the Democratic Republic, People's Republic of Korea, aka North Korea. There's also Panama, Sudan, and the Cayman Islands on this list. So obviously Malta will definitely have to step up its fight against money laundering, financial crimes, if we want to get off this list. Definitely not a good sign for the island.
No, definitely not a good sign. Maybe not a surprise anymore, given that what we heard about the grey listing last month. These stuff are expected to happen, and a lot needs to be done in terms of our fight against financial crime. Maybe it's a good kick in the butt for us to really up our game in that sector. Moving on to our second story, if you at all kind of looked at Lovin Malta's social media this week, you would have seen a video go up of a fight that broke out in a SLIEMA LIDO, MALTESE player, in fact, last Tuesday. Now, Lovin Malta spoke to parties involved, including a Colombian couple who are at the center of the feud. Diana and her boyfriend Hasten and their Colombian friends were actually there to celebrate Colombian Independence Day when literally all hell broke loose. According to Diana, her friends and her boyfriend arrived at the club at around 8:30 p.m. to find a large queue already forming. They had already pre-booked tables, but when they entered, they were told that there were no tables set aside for them. They in fact had to wait, COVID-19 restrictions and just general delays that we're all kind of used to now. They finally sat down at 11 p.m., but when 11 p.m. came, music was shut off and they were told to leave. They were in fact closest near the door. They were told to leave. A couple of them left, but in fact a couple of them were kicked out, right? Because they were shoved out because they didn't want to leave. Obviously, if you just arrived, you had just been there, you would want to stay, especially if you just sat down. They were told to leave, kicked out, and one of the persons that were kicked out had left her dog, her Instagram famous dog, inside. Hasten, the boyfriend, who ended up being attacked, went to go speak to her over the wall. He was then pushed and shoved and beaten up by apparently an off-duty police officer. John, you spoke to the couple and you know a bit more about the story, don't you?
Yeah, it's quite an insane and contentious story right here. So just to be clear, Lovin Malta has spoken to MALTESE and the organizers behind the event at MALTESE Playa. They've categorically denied, being violent or overtly violent against these Colombians. And they actually said, the whole incident started after people started jumping over the walls to break into the clubs without having a ticket. In fact, MALTESE have now put up a new fence surrounding the club since the incident on Tuesday. But yes, as far as the Colombians go, having one of their own beaten, covered in blood, hospitalized after they had planned to just go out and celebrate independence at a cool event by the pool is definitely not one way you want to have your night end. One of the crazy things is, after the incident happened, apparently they had actually gone to some police while they were covered in blood, and they had asked to file a police report that moment when they were allegedly told, listen, don't you know it's illegal to be here after time? You could risk a €300 fine if you're staying here. So it seemed like there wasn't that much sympathy from the police on this. Now, Lovin Malta will definitely be looking into this, especially as far as, questions with the off-duty police officer, if a violent incident erupts and there's an off-duty police officer right there, Does he have the right to intervene? Does he have the right to be violent? So we'll definitely be covering the story and seeing what comes from it next. Moving on to the next story, quite an interesting story. So obviously the last few weeks, tensions around COVID-19 measures have been rising. The recent U-turns by the government as far as travel restrictions and people who can enter the country if they're unvaccinated has caused a lot of stress and hassle. And tomorrow in Valletta, a protest will be held calling for freedom from these measures. So this is actually an international protest. It's going to be happening in major cities all around the world. It will also be happening in Valletta at 9 a.m. This is the worldwide rally for freedom. And on their Facebook page, they said, you know, we are one big family. They said, it's time for us, quote, to stand side by side to fight for freedom and human rights. Will you be at the protest tomorrow, JP?
I personally won't be at the protest tomorrow, no, but I do understand their sentiment and the anger and frustration they feel given that this pandemic seems to be dragging out on and on and on. We're now in a third wave, you know, spurred on by the Delta variant. Obviously, people's lives have been affected tremendously, and lockdown measures especially have affected people who work in the entertainment and hospitality industry. So I definitely sympathize with them and understand where they're coming from, especially given the fact that, like you mentioned, government U-turns and rules and regulations changing on a week-to-week basis makes it absolutely a nightmare to figure out what is going on and what documents you need and what documents you don't. But I don't feel gathering in large crowds, given that we do have the Delta variant spreading, is advisable at this stage, but I do sympathize with them. Moving on to our fourth story now, and again concerning more bureaucratic red tape. With a vaccinated British man has unfortunately been forced to miss his sister's funeral in the UK due to the fact that he's had delays in obtaining his Maltese ID card. John Reynolds told Lovin Malta that he and his wife had moved here last year and went about registering for the residency, becoming part of the first cohort actually of British people who were testing the system since Brexit happened. They submitted all the documents as requested by March and April last year, but have yet to receive their residency cards by now, with Identity Malta telling them it's a work in progress. If you're a foreigner living in Malta watching this, I'm sure you understand totally what they're going through. A lot of people struggle despite filling all the documents, despite doing all that is necessary to get the residency card. To actually obtain it, it is a long and arduous process. Reynolds and his wife are in fact both vaccinated in Malta, but the delay from Identity Malta's side meant that they're unable to receive their vaccine certificate, leaving them stuck over here while his sister unfortunately passed away in the UK. Like I said, this is unfortunately a common thing in Malta with bureaucratic delays, especially for foreigners trying to get their residency cards. In this case, it just shows how serious of a situation it is, because these people aren't able to leave and attend his sister's funeral. The health ministry did recently say that people who have been fully vaccinated in Malta but don't have an ID card here will receive a code by SMS to allow them to download their vaccine certificate. Yet Reynolds and his wife have yet to receive this code too.
No, it's a crazy situation right now with travelers. This is just one of dozens of stories that people have been contacting Lovin Malta with over the last few weeks. As we just said in the previous story, there's literally a protest happening tomorrow following all the U-turns. So my heart definitely goes out to people stuck in Malta, stuck abroad, trying to get into Malta, people who took the wrong brand of vaccine, as one Maltese man who was in Dubai told us. It's a really, really crazy situation. So my heart definitely goes out to people who are having their plans majorly ruined by these new measures. Moving on to the final story of the day, quite a positive story, something you don't hear enough coming out from Malta. So a leading politician opened up about a random act of kindness that occurred between him and an African cab driver that was riding him around. So Labour's deputy leader, Dayo McAuliffe, quite a young guy, took to Facebook to talk about how he had called a cab and he had spoken to his driver, a guy from Somalia, dropped him off at his destination, only to realize that he had left his wallet in the cab. He called up the guy immediately and he told him, listen, I already found your wallet, I'm on the way back right now. He was back within minutes and gave him back his wallet. McAuliffe said that, he was super impressed by this. He even tried to give him some money to thank him, but the cab driver refused it, and he ended up having to throw the money into the window as he's driving away just to give him the money. A lot of people, reacted to the story online because, it's not every day that you hear a politician talking positively about encounters with, you know, black people in Malta. And let's not forget, just a few days ago, there was that incident over the weekend with the Somalian man who had been allegedly beaten and thrown into the sea in Gozo. Just so a few days later, a nationalist politician, Kevin Kotayar, took to Facebook and said, you know, listen, I condemn the violence, but, you know, multiculturalism, is it right for Malta, Gozo and Malta? So, you know, when you're seeing this rhetoric from a number of politicians, it is good to see other politicians coming out with the positivity and showing, listen, we are all humans after all.
Absolutely, yeah, and I'm sure there are a lot more stories like this, good stories, positive stories of the benefits of multiculturalism in Malta. They just don't get out. Unfortunately, our narrative and newsfeed is always marred by migrants crossings and on the Mediterranean and the perils they go through. And unfortunately, it's met here with sometimes with racist remarks and anti-migrant remarks, which is an absolute shame. But it's good to see in this case that, you know, awareness is being raised of really the fact that you mentioned we're all human and that we all are capable of doing acts of kindness. That brings us to the end of our news segment, but make sure to stick around for a special interview with Maltese pop sensation Maxine Pace, who just released her show-stopping EP, Skin Deep. We'll be discussing that in a bit, but first, here's her latest music video, Pull Me Closer.
Back and forward about the same old thing. We both know it ain't working, but we're trying. It's like we're in a ring, aimlessly punching, but no one's gonna win if we're both swinging. Can you put your love on me and remind me how it feels? Just pull me closer, put your hands over my shoulder, slower. I don't want this to be over. Tomorrow, but I just wanna lay here with you. Pull me closer before it's all over. Lover, my beautiful disaster. Remember how you used to just call my name? Oh, and you do it now, no it ain't the same. I'm still the same girl who you first met. So boy, why you acting so damn different? Can you put your love on me and remind me how it feels? Just pull me closer, put your hands over my shoulder, slower. I don't want this to be over. We might not get tomorrow, but I just wanna lay here with you. Pull me closer before it's all over. Lover, my beautiful disaster. Hold on to what we started. Love, don't always come started.
Welcome back to Lovin Daily. We're now joined by Maltese pop sensation Maxine Pace. Maxine, thank you for joining us. You just released your show-stopping EP, Skin Deep. Skin Deep features 6 emotional songs describing your life and what you went through the past 3 years. Can you explain to us a bit exactly what Skin Deep is and what's in the EP?
So Skin Deep was actually going to be an album at first, so we wrote around 15 songs, which we ended up choosing 6 of them. I started writing this around almost 4 years ago now, and it was like an emotional journey for me. Like
right.
I was just 17, it was like the emotional teenage journey, like that I think every teenage girl goes through, everyone in a different way, obviously. I had just lost my mom, so it was a bit of an emotional roller coaster, I think.
Absolutely.
And also learning to be independent, learning about everything in life, love, family, you know, what I like, what I don't. So yes, that's what Skin Deep is all about, and that's what the songs represent.
So it features 6 tracks, like you had mentioned. You said you went through all the emotions of a teenager, but obviously yours were much more stronger and much more difficult, given the fact that you lost your mother. Was that the main inspiration behind this EP?
Yes. I started. I made the point that I want to start writing my album exactly after my mom passed away. She was always my emotional support and the person that's always pushing me in my music in school and everything. Me and my best friend Mushu, we were like, okay, let's just keep on going. Let's not stop here, and let's start writing an album, and that's where it all started. So yes.
and what is the relevance of the name Skin Deep?
Skin Deep represents what's a kind of feeling that I was feeling these last 4 years, and that I had been feeling like for my life. When you're like in the music scene and in the public eye, like people like either hate you or love you, and it was something that used to bother me, that like you don't know where you are with people sometimes, and that was something that I felt like with my relationships and all that. So yes, that's what Skin Deep represents. It's like, will you actually love me if like I take off all my makeup, right. I'm natural, I'm like
the raw you,
the raw me. Yes, that's something I was always scared about. When I was younger, I was it was a bit difficult for me to make friends sometimes, because I felt like I had to be not me for them to like me, you know. And even since I used to sing and all that, like I was a bit too much sometimes for people.
Right,
but
right.
Are there going to be people who love me for who I am actually or not? So that's something that was an emotional, it was something that I thought of on a daily basis. So yes, that's the essence of Skin Deep.
So the EP is kind of a reflection of your maturity, both emotionally,
yes,
and kind of growing up as a musician.
And even personally,
yeah.
The songs are about me and what I felt. I wrote them with my best friend Mushu, so we literally explained every emotion that I felt during that time.
And one of those songs was Thunder, which you had released a couple of years ago with a very kind of heartfelt music video and tribute to your late mother. Another one was Pull Me Closer, which you released another music video for last week. Out of all 6 songs, which one are you most proud of?
It has to be Thunder, obviously. I think Thunder was a song that I'm a very open and honest person, so like I speak about anything and everything with everyone. But the situation with my mother was something I couldn't really explain in words. Like I could only explain it through song and the video, and it came out as in I managed to express myself the best way I could there. So yes, I'm very proud of that.
So Skin Deep was released yesterday. On streaming platforms. What has the reception been like so far, 24 hours after?
Good. People are very happy that Thunder is on Spotify now, because it wasn't on Spotify before. I wanted to release the whole album or the whole EP together. Yes, I'm very glad that people are liking the new songs. There are 3 new songs after the ones that they already heard. So yes, I'm very excited to see what's in store next.
And so what is in store next for Maxine? Obviously things are a bit more difficult now with the pandemic doing live shows and stuff.
Obviously.
But now you're back on the scene with 6 fresh new songs. Can we expect some live shows from you in the future?
Hopefully, as in, let's see what the pandemic holds. But yes, that's my main aim, and I'm going to keep on working on more music until I can actually get to perform. And I have already been working on my new music and new styles, because obviously since these 4 years my style has totally changed.
Absolutely.
And music I listen to now is totally different, so I'm working on trying to find the new me, you know, so yes.
So Skin Deep released yesterday a reflection of Maxine back on the scene after a couple of years, a roller coaster of emotions that you've gone through, but reflected in this 6-piece EP, which kind of highlights your maturity both personally and emotionally. 6 incredible songs, 2 music videos out already, and a lot more expecting to come from you now that you're back. Maxine, thank you so much for joining us today, and best of luck with your new EP.